just, it's so easy, so I can forget the technical stuff and I don't have to really worry and stress about it. So that does free me up. I have been high a lot of interviews recently, and that definitely helps. Whereas if I were doing it in person, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. What's the difference? Is because you're in your zone and you just feel more comfortable?
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes. I mean, one thing I miss, and I haven't been doing with my old co-host Ben a lot, the show. He's been busy. So I used to have a dynamic with another person. And that was really nice, having a co-host and being able to bounce off each other. And he could be more of the straight man. I could be more out there, or vice versa for the interviews. When you do it alone, like we do now, it's a lot more pressure in some ways. And you can't let yourself go as far as you would if you had a straight person there to reel you in, you know?
Yeah, I found definitely, you mentioned the body language, like for sure. I feel like people tend to, on Zoom, you almost have to rein them in a little bit more. I think it's just because it's harder to read that body language. Like we've all been in that position where like maybe you got a couple beers in you and you're at a party and you're like 3/4 of the way into a story and then you just realize that you've totally lost the room and no one fucking cares, But that's a good thing because it's like, you're reading the body language. It's a lot harder to do that on Zoom. And so I feel people just kind of nervously talk until you kind of cut them off or, kind of, all right, you got that, which is funny because the platform of Zoom, the one thing that I feel like its weak point, it does not like two audio tracks at the same time. It's really,
it's a little awkward. I've played around with some other programs like Squadcast, which will record the audio and it records each audio individually from their side, so you get a much better quality audio, but you don't record the video part, which is also kind of a nice little add-on bonus with Zoom. But the one nice thing I would say is it really frees up a lot of people to get interesting people from other areas that they normally wouldn't be able to get access to.
Of course.
In person, I found a lot of people froze up. It got really nervous. Maybe it's just the way we had it set up. I mean, we originally used to do it in Container in Bushwick, and it was cool. But I remember we had Joe Falcone on, and it took him like a half hour to really. He was like frozen, almost, and he'll tell you. It took him about 30 minutes to get really warmed up. And I found that a lot in person. Plus, I can be really intimidating in person. I'm 6'3", man. Like that's
yeah, you're kind of a tough guy,
It's a lot, you know. I get really animated in life, and
it's funny. I found that almost in photography too, and that's been kind of my approach. That's why I don't really. I feel me personally, I don't really shine in a studio environment because once you create that, it's like the stories that I like to tell through a camera. It's like you set up these lights and you set up a studio, and then you're like, okay, stand there, and now it's like people are like, oh, we're doing a photo shoot. Whereas like if you just kind of like have a camera and you go to their house or you go to their favorite coffee shop, or look at this cool wall, and it's kind of you're in real life instead of like. Okay, now we're having a podcast or now we're having a photo shoot, like some people are good at that. Some people are not used to it,
I think if you focus on the process and just the enjoyment of doing it, a lot of the other stuff will follow. There are obviously a lot of marketing and everything else you can do around it. But for me, like, I do this because I just fucking love to talk to people and I'm really excited to learn and engage. And I didn't get to do that before podcasting. I didn't get to talk surf an hour a week. And I'm fucking a surf nerd. Yeah. And my wife doesn't surf and I love her, but she can't handle the nerdiness that I want to go to, the depths of surf talk. And so this is my outlet, and I found that just doing it, people enjoy it. And I think that definitely is, if you just have that mindset, the shit will come, and people will enjoy it. And, I think just do some marketing and you slowly build. And if you build, you do good shows, you just keep building. I mean, look at David Scales, man.
I was just going to say, I was going to name checks like some inspirations of people that I'm huge fans of. Like he's fantastic at like shepherding an hour-long conversation, and he hustles. But I mean, just even
works so hard at it too.
And
Like,
he's good. It's a good template for giving people rope and pulling them in and really being able, I've listened to a lot of people ramble, and he's really good at like giving them space, knowing when to rein them back in, knowing when to like feed them a little piece to get him inspired. Like I'm a
he
big fan.
handled Maurice Cole. That guy, love him, but holy shit, he can ramble. Like, David was really good at holding on to him and keeping him engaged and keeping him focused. So, yeah, I mean, and he's done like 300 episodes.
So many, I know. And then it's funny, conversely, you have somebody like Chad Smith, who's just like so bombastic and talks so much shit. And then, I'm friends. He's cool. Like I
love Chad.
He's
so damn charming.
He's so charming. He's smart. He's an amazing writer. Really respect him on that level. I have some photos in his book, but like it's so hilarious. I love how once a year they'll pick this topic. Like 2 years, 3 years ago, it was like the inertia. Like I know Zach. Those guys are nice guys. They're not the coolest guys on the planet, but they're not trying to be. They're just nice.
Yeah.
So like first it was inertia, and then it was like Logan and WSL, and then when he had him on there. Oh, a stab. And then, when he had Eric Logan on, like,
oh my gosh, he crumbled.
Crumbled. Like, he did this like mental jujitsu. Like, Chaz was just like wrecked. I was like, dude, what happened?
And then the second time he did it with Derek Riley,
I know
it was good, but they crumbled again. Like Derek kind of tried to, but it was really like, I think Elo probably. He has one of those like personalities where it's hard.
He's a CEO for a reason. He's just like, he comes in there. He's like, all right, I'm gonna self disparage myself. You have no ammunition, and he's obviously very bright, and it was funny to watch how like certain people's mic persona like didn't necessarily like pan out with other guests.
One day I would love to have the time to do something like Radiolab for surfing, where it's more highly edited. Lots of
sound beds,
lots of research, real experts, just really dive into something deep that seems trivial to surfing even. Like that would be really cool. And I mean like that's one of the things I love about what you do and particularly in what you bring to the work you do, the photography and the podcast is even though you're not from New York, you're technically a New Yorker because you've been here over 10 years. So we'll...
25. I got 25 plus
I know.
On the lower east side. So,
man. I mean, I grew up in Long Island and was going into the city as a kid, but yeah, you've got cred, So you bring this New York sensibility to it all, but with a surfy lens, and that's kind of how I view the world a lot of times. Also, it's very much like, oh, that's interesting. How can we put a surfy lens on it? And you're kind of like doing that with your photography. You're doing the inverse of that. You're taking like the New York kind of approach to it or documentary kind of approach to it. And really, I don't know. It was beautifully done on your book. I really, really enjoyed HI1K. Or High 1000, baby. That's what I like to call it.
The book, HI1K, if you didn't get a chance, it's available at HI1K.com. And the full title,
it just sounds so much cooler as High 1000, man.
High 1000. It's still available. We still got a few copies left. I think COVID kind of put some sand in the gears. We had a whole promo tour in California that we were supposed to do, but I was over in Hawaii for the launch in last December, and that was really special. Like John Pizell put together a little party for me, and we did a launch at the at his shaping bay / store at the Sugar Mill.
No way.
It was really cool. It was like, so it was basically we had a little party. He put it like a book event, and then it was me and Tom Survey and Brian Bielman. And we each submitted like about 50 photos, and we put together this slideshow. We were just going to have this like kind of, collaborative party. And so they said it was just like they had a keg of beer. We did it at nighttime. It was just like super, super rootsy, like, dirt hanging out. I don't know if you've ever been over there, but it's just like corrugated metal and everything's rusted and just like so like authentic North Shore. And I thought we were just gonna like throw some pictures up and drink some beer and like I'd talk to people and then Pizell's like, no, bro, like we gotta talk story. And I was like, okay, all right, so we just did our stories, and I think my favorite part of the night Beelman's a character, so he told great stories and whatever.
Yeah.
But Tom Survey is a little bit more reserved, so he threw up that picture of Tom Curran, the cutback shot off the
Yes.
wall, and Tom was like, so this is Tom Curran, and that's off the wall, and then he went to the next picture, and so and Benji Weatherly he's like, whoa, time out. Benji was like so offended that he didn't talk
Yeah.
enough about his own picture. He's like, Tom, let me tell you why this has been like. He went in this whole rant. I'm like, why that picture inspired him and how it changed the game. I was like, it was so great. It was just amazing to be able to just kind of be in that environment and premiere the book there and have people appreciate it. And it was just a really special night.
Tom must have been like, I'm so sick and tired of talking about this fucking photo. Do you know what other stuff I do, by the way? Know? Can you imagine, like, you're just known for that one photo and that's it? Like that would be like, I have a whole breadth of work here,
I mean, everything, the other 35 photos you showed were like amazing too, but I mean, that one's just iconic,
That is just two Tom Masters.
But it was funny, like the biggest, it seemed so obvious after the fact, and I feel like silly even thinking it, but I had this kind of subconscious thought that I would, it's 10 years in the making. I would bring this book back over to the North Shore and like all the subjects that I shot and all the people at the team houses and all the athletes and they would all laud me and be like, oh, this is amazing, look what this guy did. And then like they were really appreciative and they liked it, but at the end of the day, like most of the subjects were like, oh yeah, that's cool, oh, those are my friends or whatever. And I realized I had this epiphany. I was like, the book's not for them, it's for people who don't have access to those houses. It's the people who don't get to go to the North Shore. It's the people who aren't in the surf scene all the time, but are like just completely inspired and intrigued by it, and the response that I got from people at the opening that, that knew everybody in the book, but weren't in the book. Like that's what really made it special. And that's, it's for my friends in Rockaway. It's for people that I care about that are like, oh, cause I'm a surf fan too, and be like, fuck, I got to hang out with Kelly Slater. And then there's the story and it's just like, it's great.
Well, I will say those people will appreciate it in about 20 or 30 years. It'll be like, holy shit, remember that time? Oh my God. So rest assured you have longevity in that. But two, like, yeah, it is for us. It's for the public because how, I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, when I would watch surf movies, one of the best parts were always after the credits, the secret segments, in skate and surf films. And it was like, showed them at parties, hanging out.
Outtakes, laughing.
Totally. Yeah. Like that, to me, was almost more enjoyable than the movie. And there was a series of surf films I'm going to send you links to on YouTube, Sarge's Surfing Scrapbook. And basically this photographer, Sarge, just toured around, went with the world tour and filmed it and photographed it. That was his job. And they'd make a yearbook video. And it was like amazing because it showed Brad Gerlach and the whole crew up to hijinks on the plane, getting hammered, having fucking food fights in Reunion Island. And you're like, oh my God, this looks so fun. And that's what you did with your photos. You gave this behind the scenes view that I think we all kind of crave.
And I think I'm hoping, or I think it'll age well. I mean, I think that's why that type of work. I mean, even for me, like I look at my favorite photos growing up, or like those pictures of whatever it's Led Zeppelin backstage or Bob Gruen stuff with the Sex Pistols. Like just try to put myself in this position of like a 13-year-old kid, and just like it's cool. Like I love seeing pictures of Kelly Slater on a wave, but like I want to know like what's his closet look like, or what like I've always just been inspired on this kind of behind the scenes moments, and that's the kind of stuff that I think ages really well. And hopefully those athletes will appreciate it.
One thing I remember hearing or reading was you love to think about the quiet moments. What are the surfers doing in between the surfs? What are the those moments? And I love like your description with Dustin Barca and Schnabel and the butterfly, and it just these moments. They're quiet moments. I loved how you described that.
And I think, even the time, just a, backstory. So I used to work with Sean Combs for years and traveled with him. And he is much different personality than me. Like really revel in being alone. You know,
You
actually
think?
don't get it.
You think?
Don't get enough of